All right, Christian, thanks for coming and talking with me again. We're just going to do a quick review of that on-course lesson I did with Tucker. You observed and filled out the sheet for me, but we just want to kind of talk about it. I hadn't done a lot of on-course teaching. It's definitely been more like in practice facilities, not on course, but on course is definitely something, especially I want to get into with better players. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was, first of all, thanks for letting me come out and observe you. I think on course is something that is a little bit difficult a lot of times to do as coaches with our time. And then also you're kind of trying to work around the golf course a lot too. But it might be one of the most important pieces of coaching that's left out a lot of times, right? And I mean, obviously the PGA gave you some good guidelines for the shots that you guys talked through. I thought you did really a good job of like kind of highlighting, just getting him to visualize some stuff when he's on the tee. And I think that's what we see a lot with players, right? Is they're kind of trying to visualize shots like as they're setting up to the shot, like as they're stepping into the shot, right? And at that point, it's like, okay, now our brain's taking in all this information, right? When you hear good players, they kind of do that well before they hit the shot, right? They're behind the ball. And so I think you guys did a really good job with that, or you did a really good job with that with Tucker, is kind of talking through that. And then just kind of, I think with a better player like that, a lot of times we're trying to listen to like what they're processing when they're playing. And I thought you did a really good job with that as well, right? And he's a guy, fortunately, that will kind of talk out loud, right? Where sometimes that can be difficult is when you've got, a really good player that's maybe a super heavy introvert, right? Or just like doesn't, everything's internal, right? So you got to kind of maybe read body language more with that, or just take more time, right? You can kind of get his mindset and body language and his thoughts like within the first 3 holes,
Yeah.
right? And you have I've coached some elite level juniors that are 14, 15 years old, and they don't say a word for 6 holes. And it's like, okay, we got to just really lock in and kind of, look at their body language cues and kind of look at their pace of kind of going through stuff, right? One thing we did kind of talk about that you could probably improve on a little bit was just, I think, how do we help our players manage expectations, right? Like, I think a lot of times, colloquially, we get to the first tee and we're like, okay, we're gonna we got to hit a good first tee shot here, right? We have, we want to get off to a good start. And that was kind of one of the things we talked about, maybe a little bit more so also when I went on the course with you specifically, but with your students as well, right? That's going to kind of bleed in and just kind of getting them to understand that really the only relevant thing is just the golf shot in front of them, right? The fact that it's the first tee shot or the last tee shot or a tee shot, to win a match, or a tee shot, just playing with your friends for a couple holes. It's kind of the same thing, right? It's the same as hitting a tee shot on a driving range, but helping them think through, okay, what are the triggers to our brain that kind of causes the stress and emotions, and is probably somewhere where you can grow a little bit, right? And for me as well as a coach, right? That's something that, to be honest, I really never thought about until about a year ago. Right? There's so many different things that can affect how we're approaching a shot, and just kind of getting them to do the work right before they get into that situation is really, really paramount, right? So we talk about expectation management, acceptance of all outcomes, stuff like that, just to get their mind in a frame where they can swing freely. So that would be a spot where I think all of us could grow as coaches, right? It's really hard to do as players, and it's hard to help our players do that. So we have to be mindful of that. So
Awesome. I appreciate that input. You're going to be my mentor as well. So we'll definitely have some more of these conversations. Yep. And keep, working together and looking at these things and growing.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'll go wash your hands.